since the year 2010. Of course, the head of state had actually a forum where, a lot of things actually emerged in that particular forum. Of course, we shall be getting into the nitty-gritties of that in the course of this particular program. The Standard, we're going to take a look on the dailies today to tell you what exactly the newspapers are saying. We'll be having the Standard, which the head of state is actually the headlining. The Standard this morning says, misplaced Kenyans want reforms, not uniforms. Daily Nation speaks about divided in defections. Taifa Leo speaks about Sifuna Agonga Mwamba. People Daily speaks about why battle for Ruto's running mate is in high stakes affair. All right, we shall be getting into the nitty-gritties of that in the course of this particular program. Our streams are up on Facebook, YouTube, and as well send us your feedback through our SMS line, that is 03059. Our WhatsApp line is also working at 0740-653-450. Of course, I shall be sampling some of your feedback even as we wrap it up here on the program, all right? But first things first, let's take a look on what you're waking up to this morning. And the President William Ruto has urged Kenyans to uphold and protect constitutional rights, stressing that the freedom to demonstrate should not be used as a cover for criminal activities. He was speaking during the celebrations marking the 16 years since the adoption of the Kenya's 2010 Constitution, where President William Ruto said the Constitution protects citizens' rights to hold peaceful and unarmed gatherings and demonstrations. However, he stressed that the right does not protect acts of arson, looting, violence, threats, attacks on citizens, or destruction of public and private property. Take a look.
Accountability also requires us to confront difficult moments in our recent national life. During the protests of 2024 and those that followed, young Kenyans and other citizens exercised their constitutional freedoms to speak, assemble, demonstrate, picket, and petition public authorities. Their message was clear. They wanted to be heard. They demanded greater accountability, better government, and a meaningful place in shaping the future of their nation. Those demands were not an assault on democracy. Peaceful protest, criticism, and dissent are essential to democracy. Yet, those protests also presented our republic with a profound constitutional question. Should lose their life, liberty, or dignity merely for criticizing government, expressing an unpopular opinion, or participating in peaceful demonstration? I recognize the pain that remains from the events of that period. Some families lost loved ones. Serious allegations were made concerning unlawful arrests, enforced disappearances, and the excessive use of lethal force.
Right, at the same time, the human rights defenders gathered at Nairobi's Jivanjee Gardens to mark the 16th anniversary of Kenya's constitution, raising concerns over what they described as an increasing restrictions on constitutional freedoms. The activists expressed alarm over limitations on the rights to assemble, demonstrate, and freely express opinions as the country moves closer to the next general election. They also decried what they termed as growing intimidation and human alleged abuses that they say undermine the spirit and promise of the 2010 Constitution. Take a look.
We're celebrating 16 years and we still have women getting killed. We still have community being criminalized. We still have people not having even the dignity, houses being, people being evicted. What are we celebrating about? But as activists and also as a human rights defender and as an active citizen in this country, is to tell Kenyans where we are now, we cannot afford our constitution to be ripped, our constitution to be played with. We must protect and we must safeguard, and especially also to the young people like myself.
In a country that says people like me should be on the streets begging, in a country that says I can't run for office, in a country that says some people cannot vote, I'm here to represent them that the dawn is here and our constitution and this flag entitles us to inclusion. As you go back to our homes and to our communities, there's a cry in this country for justice. Justice for the victims of the Gen Z protest. Justice for the people in Homa Bay. Hadi leo hii tujue watu wangapi walikufa Homa Bay. Serikali imeficha hao mambo yote. Wale ambao walihusika, wale ambao walihaya goons kule Homa Bay hawajafunguliwa mashtaka. Kwa hivyo kama serikali yetu itakuwa ni serikali ya goons, tunaomba kwamba wajiuzulu ndio Kenya wakuwe safe.
Don't underestimate them. They have the money, they have the machinery of violence, and they know how to divide people in this country. They have a history of 63 years. Kwa hiyo mjihadhari. That's my message today. If you want a Kenya that is free, please don't underestimate.
Now, the Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka is calling on the Independent Electoral Independence Commission (IEBC) to ensure greater transparency in the procurement of election technology ahead of the 2027 general election. Kalonzo says allegations of predetermined tenders could undermine public confidence in the Electoral Commission. He has urged IEBC to provide clear explanations and address concerns surrounding the procurement process. Speaking at the Blessed Victory Church during a conference that brought together religious leaders from across Africa and other parts of the world, Kalonzo called on the IEBC to fully address the concerns surrounding the acquisition of election technology and work towards restoring public trust ahead of the 2027 polls.
Them being in custody and being in remand and Langata cannot be able to let them have access into coming to court. And this,
if those allegations are true, then it's a very serious verdict on the new IEBC. As we have always told them, they have a duty to prove. They are not a William Ruto commission. They are an independent electoral boundaries commission, where those who are aggrieved in the procurement process have gotten, as you mentioned, to the appeals board. Then it has to be heard, they have to be heard, and of course others, but so that they act expeditiously. We want the appeals board, for example, to very quickly dispense with this matter, because Kenyans cannot have one day, an extra day for William Ruto's administration because of delay.
Now, a police constable accused of firing the shots that killed a psychologist and Dr. Victoria Mutiso has been charged alongside 3 other suspects as the murder case enters a new phase at the High Court in Nairobi. Constable Elijah Gibelion Kimoi appeared before Justice Kanyi Kimondo alongside Rose Mbithe Mulwa, also known as Rose Mbete, and her 2 children, Chris Mulwa and Angela Mulwa. The 4 suspects will undergo psychiatric assessments before returning to court next month to formally respond to the murder charges. The court ordered that Rose Mbithe and Angela Mulwa remain at Langata Women's Prison, while Chris Mulwa and Constable Kimoi will be held at Industrial Area Prison. Constable Kimoi is also expected to be provided with a state-appointed lawyer to represent him during the proceedings.
them being in custody and being in remand and Langata cannot be able to let them have access into coming to court. And these matters are crucial. This is part of this issue that is in this case.
My Lord, we believe that the prison authorities are capable of producing them whenever they are needed. And if they need even a production order, the same can be issued by the court. So I don't see any difficulties in them attending because I assume that this is a civil matter they have. So, and I believe that they should be having advocates to represent them.
He need not make any comment or plead to that information until one, an advocate is appointed for him in this matter, and secondly, that he is submitted to a mental assessment test as to his capacity to follow these proceedings or to defend himself.
Now, government spokesperson Charles Owino has warned Kenyans about the growing spread of false information, misinformation, and fake news, saying the trend could threaten democracy, peace, and national security. Owino says the increased use of social media and widespread access to smartphones, including in rural areas, have accelerated the spread of inaccurate information. He warns that the greatest danger is when citizens make important decisions based on false or distorted information. Owino has therefore called on the government, citizens, and the media to work together in tackling misinformation and strengthening national unity. He also stressed the importance of upholding national values and social ethics, urging everyone to ensure that information they share is accurate, responsible, and constructive.
Country, we are sitting on a time bomb following the rise of misinformation, disinformation, and basically false information. Why do I say so? Social media has grown and smartphones are available as far as village levels. The greatest threat to our democracy, peace, and security shall originate from people making decisions based on false information, misinformation, disinformation, and fake news. For that reason, I'm calling upon all of you, all of us, for collective collaboration between government, members of the public, members of the fourth estate, that is the media, to elevate and promote national cohesiveness and moral questions, including what our values are and what is acceptable to our communities. As a country, we are sitting on a time.
Now moving on to matters education, public universities in Kenya are facing a dilemma as they prepare to admit first-year students without official guidelines on tuition fees. At the University of Eldoret, about 8,000 students have been admitted despite the institution having only 2,000 accommodation spaces. The university's Deputy Vice-Chancellor Thomas Cheriot says the new student funding model will continue to be implemented for some students as the institution awaits the government's announcement on the rollout of the new system. Universities are still waiting for clear government guidelines on tuition fees as they prepare for the new academic year. Take a look.
The current funding scenario, the government is working on modalities. We are asking our students to just register and go to class. Of course, they will meet some accommodation costs, and we have an association with the landlords that we've been meeting to ensure that our students have a smooth, they are able to access those rented spaces affordably and without exploitation, even dealing with other issues of security and everything. But the government is also working on putting up an affordable housing units in the university. There is already a contractor in place. They are speeding up the construction, but we.
Now, community health workers from Kandui and Sirisia constituencies in Bungoma County have received training on Ebola prevention and control. The training, conducted by officials from the Ministry of Health and health experts, aims to equip the health workers with the knowledge to educate and sensitize residents on Ebola, including the ways of preventing infection and containing the spread of the disease. Mosezo Uma has described Ebola as a dangerous disease that requires heightened vigilance, stressing that the prevention is better than cure. He has urged residents to seek accurate information about Ebola and take the necessary precautions to protect themselves and their communities from the disease.
Tumekuwa katika sub-county ya Sirisia, tumekuwa katika Kandui, na tumekuwa tukitrain our CHPs wakaweze kujua haya masuala ya Ebola, si ya kwamba ipo kwa sababu sisi tuko karibu na Uganda. Mtu anaweza jiuliza kwa nini Kenya? Kwa sababu kwa kawaida huwa tunasema heri kinga kuliko kutibu, na hasa inatupaswa we take preventive measures towards ensuring that our community is safe in terms of, and also preparedness and also issues of management as far as Ebola virus disease is concerned.
Now, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, has taken 3 suspects to court over an alleged conflict of interest involving transactions worth more than 92 million Kenya shillings linked to the Turkana County government. The suspects are Betty Imadi Asimit, a Senior Assistant Community Health Officer with the Turkana County Government, Moses Longole Apua, a Director of Apuko Holdings Group Limited, and Chosi Nick Nakucho, an employee of Mary's Mills, Kenya. And according to the EACC, Apuko Holdings Group Limited and Nilia Company Limited received more than 92 million Kenya shillings from the Turkana County Government between the year of 2013 and 2014 and 2024 to 2025 financial years. Now, the three suspects were arraigned in court yesterday and are expected to respond to charges related to the alleged transactions.
The Commission forwarded the inquiry file to Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, who approved the prosecution of 8 public officials, companies, and company directors. The Commission will pursue the recovery and forfeiture of public funds and assets established to have been acquired through corrupt conduct or other unlawful means. EACC remains committed to safeguarding public resources and ensuring that public officers entrusted with public funds are held accountable when they abuse their positions for private benefits.
Right now, the Migori County Government has launched a seed distribution program targeting 5,000 farmers across the county, aimed at addressing the effects of climate change and increasing food production. The program comes after prolonged droughts and unpredictable rainfall patterns affected crop production in various parts of the Migori County, leaving many farmers with poor harvests. Migori Deputy Governor Dr. Gimunta Mahiri says the program will particularly benefit farmers in drought-prone areas of Nyatike County. Agriculture Executive Lucas Mosenda says the initiative will help reduce production costs for farmers while strengthening food security and the ability to cope with the challenges posed by the climate change.
Kupata chakula za kutoshelesha wakaaji wa Migori, na tunajua kwamba Mungu ameweza kubariki kaunti yetu ya Migori kwa kupata mvua ambayo ya kutosha. Tunapata msimu 2 ya kupanda, na hii kuwapatia mbegu ni kuwawezesha wakulima ili wapande katika mashamba hao.
Sisi kama idara ya kilimo tunapeana hizi mbegu ili tuweze kuwasaidia wakulima wetu ambao waliweza kuathirika. Lakini pia ningependa kusema na kutangazia wakulima kwamba sio mbegu peke yake ambayo itaweza kusaidia, lazima pia ufuate maagizo wa maafisa wetu wa kilimo. Sasa hivi tumeambiwa kwamba hapa mbele kunaweza kuwa na El Nino, tunaweza kuwa na mvua nyingi.
Natarajia nikipata mbegu naenda kuipanda hizo eka zangu 3, na nina imani kwamba nitapata mavuno mazuri wa mvua itakaponyesha.
Tukienda kwa maagrovet unapata mbegu nyingi zinakaa pale, hazinunuliwi. Sasa hizi tumepewa, ninajua ni nzuri, ile tukifika pale tutaweza kupanda na zitoe mazao mazuri na
Now, the Labour Cabinet Secretary, Dr. Alfred Mutua, has once again raised concerns over the state of development projects he initiated while serving as Machakos governor, claiming that some have been neglected and fallen into despair. Under his successor's administration, Mutua cited the Kitongi community borehole in the Kangundo areas, saying it has broken down, leaving thousands of residents, including school children, without access to a reliable source of clean water. He also raised concerns over public toilets at Kwawedei Market, which was constructed during his tenure, but has since been closed without adequate explanation. The closure has forced traders, particularly women, to seek alternative places to relieve themselves. Residents have also expressed concerns about security around the facilities, linking the situation to the recent death of a child at one of the sites.
Yeah, it is dry.
Boreholes Mukunike sublocation tuko na boreholes 3. Yenye inafanya kazi saa huu ni kwa Ndeto. Ya Kitongi na ya Mukunike hazifanyi kazi. Na hata ukienda hapo huwezi jua kama kulikuwa na borehole.
Hii shule watoto wanakunywa maji huko kwa masimo huko. Last season kuna mtoto aliingia hapo, tukapoteza huyo mtoto akienda kuchota maji.
niliwatoa mitungi kwa juu ya mkichwa. Nikaeka chini. Nikawapatia maji. Sasa wamerudishwa mitungi kwa kichwa. Waende kwa mto. Tumeenda tena, tumetoka civilization, tukaenda primitive. Tulikuwa tumetoka primitive, tukaenda civilization.
Right, moving on to some sad story. A family in Nairobi is seeking justice after a 14-year-old daughter suffered severe burns after allegedly being scalded with hot water by a fellow student at Mumbuni Girls Secondary School in Machakos County. The grade 10 student sustained serious injuries in the June 9 incident and has been forced to stay out of school for about 2 months while undergoing treatment. The family says the school directed them to seek medical treatment with assurances that the parents of the student allegedly involved would cover the cost. However, they claim they have been left to bear the medical expenses alone. The parent says the financial burden has forced the family to withdraw the girl from the school despite having already spent thousands of shillings on her treatment. The family has accused Machakos police of delaying investigations and is now demanding justice for their daughter.
Alikuwa anasema hatuwezi chotamba maji mbele yake juu tulikuwa hapo wengi tukamwachia choto. Akachoka hapo akanimwagia. Kumwaga then akaenda akaclick.
Kwanza vile nilimuona nilishtuka nikaanguka chini na nikaanza kulia. Juu niliona uchungu mtoto wangu hawezi akatembea na nilimwacha akitembea. Pofika tuliamua tutoe hiyo bandage ndio tuone. Uchungu ilikuwa nilipata mtoto wangu amechomeka kabisa. Mzazi mwenyewe alisema aache kusumbuliwa hata yeye amechoka na mtoto wake hayuko shule. So waliniuliza kama kuna kitu nilipewa na nikawaambia hakuna kitu nilipewa. Hakuna shilingi hata moja shule ilishughulika. Nilipa 13,000 tamu yenye hata mtoto wangu hakusoma. Mimi sikuwa na shida na wao, but justice ya mtoto wangu ndio nataka. Nataka mwenye anaweza nisaidia. Saa hii watoto wengine wanasoma. Mtoto wangu niko naye hapa kwa nyumba. Hakuna makosa alifanya na sina mbele wala nyuma. Nilipoteza kazi yangu. Ministry of Education wanisaidie tu vile wanaweza.
All right, that's really takes us on of us be there here on The Drift, but we'll be back in just a bit.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
Rema Feast 2026. Heaven is summoning the nations to Uhuru Park, Nairobi. 5 unforgettable days of revival, prayer and transformation. Deep worship. Prepare to encounter God,
the light of the gospel, for a greater Kenya.
Ministering this year. Rema Feast 2026. Starting Monday, August 31st to Friday, 4th September, daily at Uhuru Park, Nairobi. Come, let us rebuild.
My life will never, ever be the same again. In Jesus' name, amen.
Attention executives, business owners, entrepreneurs, and marketplace leaders. Your divine appointment is here. Welcome to the Rema Feast Business Forum. Speaking this year, Sei Ebenezer, founder Payaza. Dr. James Moria, CEO Centum Investments, Apostle Joshua Selman, and Reverend Julian Kula. If your next level requires supernatural wisdom, divine strategy, and kingdom alignment, your seat is ready. Friday, 4th September at Uhuru Park, Nairobi. Register now at remafeast.org/business forum to get your advance ticket. That's remafeast.org/business forum. Receive the power to build, create wealth, and influence nations. The Remafeast Business and Leaders Forum. Come, let us rebuild.
Sports isn't just a game. It's passion.
He's done it. Jakub Mensik is the champion in Miami.
Drama.
Man, oh, come on now.
And the thrill of the unexpected. From the stadiums to the streets, we bring the game to you.
We bring you exclusive insights from the pros, bold predictions, and in-depth analysis like never seen before.
Get ready for the action, the controversy,
and this is bubbled over. Montez shown red,
and the moments that define greatness. The Scoreboard, where every game is the biggest game.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
Well, welcome back to the program. You're watching The Drift. My name is Macharia. Let's take a look on what's making headlines on the dailies today. And I'm having the Daily Nation newspaper this particular morning, as well as the Standard newspaper this morning. All right. Now, stories making headlines this particular morning are actually in regards to the forum, which was there, headed by the head of state to celebrate the 16 years of the Constitution, since the Constitution was promulgated in the year 2010. It's actually been 16 years, right? Now that story is actually featured on page 8 of the Daily Nation. Of course, it says, Katiba at 16, President William Ruto and opposition leaders revive debates on political and governance tensions linked to the 2010 Constitution as the country marks August 27th milestone. That was yesterday. And of course, there is a picture there of the head of state and of course other senior state officials, including the deputy president, who's the Professor Kithure Kindiki, and as well as the prime CS Musalia Mudavadi, among other leaders, right there on the front page of the Daily Nation, as you can see on the sidelines of your screens. Page 12 speaks about family affair. Corruption EACC links county staff relatives to graft cases. That's a story as well featured on page 12 of the Daily Nation this particular morning. Now, top story headlining the front page of the Daily Nation: divided in defections as they push for a united front against President William Ruto ahead of the 2027 elections. The opposition is grappling with political cannibalism as partner parties poach key leaders from one another and smaller outfits struggle to retain their bases. The switching of sides is not only raising tensions, but is also testing the strengths and weaknesses of the principles as talks of picking a single presidential candidate continue. That's a story on page 4. And of course, we've actually seen, some of the leaders, especially in Jubilee, changing sides to Rigathi Gachagua's allied party. All right. Now, there's a picture there of Rigathi Gachagua, who was the DCP party leader. There's a picture there as well of Mr. Edwin Sifuna, who's the Nairobi senator. Fred Matiang'i, Jubilee deputy party leader, and as well as the flag bearer for the presidential candidacy in that particular outfit. And of course, Mr. Kalonzo Musyoka, Wiper Patriotic Front party leader, Eugene Wamalwa as well, is also on the front page, and it also doubles up as the DAPK party leader. All right. Now, Daily Nation says some top leaders who have switched sides within opposition include, they say, from Fred Matiang'i to Rigathi Gachagua, Yusuf Hassan Kamukunji, Member of Parliament, Mark Mwenje, Embakasi West, Member of Parliament, Amos Mwango, Starehe, Member of Parliament, and Kanini Kega, the ELA Member of Parliament. All right, those are, some of the leaders who have shifted from the Fred Matiang'i outfit, which is Jubilee, to Rigathi Gachagua's DCP party. All right. Now, shifting between Matiang'i and Edwin Sifuna, key Senator Richard Onyonka, Cliff Gisairo from Kitutu Chache Masaba, Member of Parliament, Obadia Borongo, Bomachoge Borabu, Member of Parliament, Anthony Kibagendi, Kitutu Chache South, Member of Parliament, and Pauline Joroge, ex-Jubilee party official. All right. Now, from Eugene Wamalwa to Edwin Sifuna, George Natembea is the governor for Trans Nzoia County, and Member of Parliament Jack Wamboka Bomula for Bomula, Member of Parliament. Now, from Rigathi Gachagua to Kalonzo Musyoka as well, I've seen Jamlek Kamau, former Member of Parliament, and Muhammad Ali Nyali, Member of Parliament. That's those are actually some of the members within the United Opposition, as the say, who have shifted from one party to another. And of course, that then again begs the question if if they will actually field one presidential candidate, and of course, how will that look like? Let's see how that will play out, even as we gear up for 2027 general election. All right. Page 2 speaks about Rosemary Koech death. KCB official avoids comment on work dynamics. And of course, they were speaking during the burial ceremony of Rosemary Koech. That's a story featured on page 2 of the Daily Nation. Now, MPs plan to hand KDF more say in military collaborations. Now, the Kenya Defence Forces, KDF, will play a major role in determining whether Kenya enters into a defence cooperation agreement, that is DCA, in future, if its members of parliament approve the various proposals under consideration. Following the recent stalemate with the United Kingdom regarding jurisdiction over the trial of foreign soldiers who commit offences while training on Kenyan soil, lawmakers are considering granting the KDF great authority to approve such agreements following a review of the terms of engagement. The proposals, which are still being drafted, will see the KDF inspect the weapons that foreign soldiers are bringing into the country and make the final decision on whether the training could have a detrimental impact on neighboring communities. Kenyan soldiers will also determine where such training will actually be taking place. That's story on page 3. Of course, it's actually a conversation that the MPs are having, amongst themselves, and they say they're actually in the final stages of drafting the same. That's the story you can find on page 3 of the Daily Nation this morning, right? Now, Meta to charge businesses for WhatsApp customer messages. Now, Kenyan businesses are set to face higher costs when interacting with customers online as Meta begins charging firms for messages sent on WhatsApp in response to client queries. Now, from October 1st, the US tech giants will introduce a charge of 52 cents for each message sent by business to customers through its WhatsApp business platform. WhatsApp will charge Kenyan businesses $0.0040. That's approximately 0.52 Kenya shillings per delivered message, adding to the features that Meta has currently monetized globally. Last year, the company started charging businesses for WhatsApp marketing messages. Regional peers, including Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda, will be charged the same rate per message. However, Kenya will be charged differently to other countries in the region, with the charge set at 0.5 or 0.52 cents compared to 0.87 cents in Nigeria, 0.098 cents in South Africa, and 47 cents in Egypt. All right. Now, from October 1st, that's from October 1st of 2026, Meta will charge for utility messages sent in response to users within an open 24-hour customer service window. The messages have not been charged since July 1st. Of 2025, when this, I believe, was actually introduced. Right? The company added that the 24-hour customer service window is calculated from the time each user message is sent. That's on page 3 of the Daily Nation about the new cost service in the WhatsApp business. Now the businessmen and women will actually be incurring some cost of some few cents when sending or when responding to their customers, right, during an open window of 24 hours, right? You can actually get that on page 3, and of course that is actually effective October 1st of 2026, barely a month to that time, right? Now page 4 speaks about party cannibalism risks implosion of opposition. That's in regards to the defections to DCP, UD, and Linda Mwananchi are exposing weak grassroots machinery among the opposition principals. That's a story featured on page 4. Page 5 speaks about opposition fails to reach deal on key issues. Now, the United Opposition retreat in Kiambu County on Monday ended without resolving some of the fundamental questions threatening to derail efforts to forge a united front ahead of the 2027 general election. The retreat, which had been scheduled for 2 days, ended after only 1 day of deliberation. The meeting brought together Rigathi Gachagwa's DCP, Wiper Party Kalonzo Musyoka, Jubilee Party Deputy Leader Fred Matiang'i, People's Liberation Party Chief Martha Karua, and her DP counterpart Justin Muturi, DAP-K Eugene Wamalwa, and PNU Peter Munya. At the heart of the disagreements are questions over who will run the coalition, who is its secretariat, who will be constituted, how decision will be made, and how the presidential candidate will be selected, and who will face President William Ruto in 2027. Very fundamental questions raised during the retreat in Kiambu among the United Opposition. Of course, the delegation says that seems to have not reached, the agreements. They say the retreat was actually scheduled to go for 2 days, and it went for only 1 day. Now that begs the question, is there a looming crisis in all the term as the United Opposition, having in mind the disagreements and of course the defections from one party to another? We've seen people defecting from Jubilee Party to DCP and vice versa. All right, that's a story featured on page 5 of the Daily Nation. Daily Nation page 6 speaks about elephant boom, test Kenya's hard-won conservation gains. That's on page 6. Page 7, meat sector hit by drought, feed shortages. Of course, there's a picture there of during that expo, the meat expo, where the agriculture CS, Mutahi Kagwe, was actually in attendance. All right. Now, let's take a look on what's making headlines on the Standard newspaper this morning. And there is a picture on the Standard front page of the head of state, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, wearing police regalia. And there are actually police who are actually there behind him. And of course, you'll remember that, the police will actually, their uniforms will actually be changed. And guess what the Standard is saying this morning? The Standard says, misplaced. Kenyans want reforms, not uniforms. All right. Now, billions of shillings are set to be poured into the new police uniforms, even as the service remains plagued by underfunding, poor welfare, corruption, and allegations of brutality. With the fresh outfits, barely 8 years after the last overhaul, questions are swirling over priorities and the company poised to supply the kit. As 6,000 recruits are unveiled in new colors, the bill could hit 330 million Kenya shillings, while addressing 56,000 general duty officers could cost another 2.8 billion Kenya shillings. The critics ask, why is it easier to change the police uniforms than to conduct the officers wearing it? Quite a fair question, because there have been, some sort of what one would say an accountability in the police service, because we've had cases during the by-elections of which people are actually saying, there were seemingly ununiformed plainclothes police officers, and one then asked the question, then why would we buy the uniforms and then again you appear in rallies and in demonstrations in plainclothes, right? Standard this morning is actually asking, why is it easier to change police uniforms than to conduct the officers wearing it? Because we've actually seen, some of the atrocities made by the police officers, especially recently during the by-elections, during demonstrations, during rallies. It is quite imperative that, the very same energy they actually, buying these very same uniforms, they should use the very same energy, to protect the people and property of the Mwananchi. Right? That's on page 4. Let's take a look at what the Standard has to say in regards to that particular story. Now they say, page 4, hard questions as billions to be spent on new police uniforms. Now, billions of shillings will be spent on clothed police officers in new grab 8 years after they last received the new uniform. And of course, you remember they last changed the uniform barely 7 or 8 years ago. I believe it was 2017, 2018. Right? Now, with opinion remains divided on the National Police Service, priorities a closer look at the details of company contracted and the sums involved point a deep-seated interest. Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja has announced that the general duty of officers will adopt the new uniform from next week. Now, those on patrol and traffic control will now don a light blue shirt or blouse paired with deep navy blue trousers, replacing the current deep blue outfit introduced in 2018 as part of police reforms. Now, the change follows a public police participation exercise in 2023. They rejected the existing uniform. President William Ruto is expected to unveil the new uniform today during a pass-out parade for 6,000 recruits at the National Police Training College in Kiganjo, Nyeri County. Now, a complete working uniform supplied by a contracted firm cost roughly 25,000 Kenya shillings, while ceremonial regalia cost about 300,000 Kenya shillings, equipping all 6,000 graduates with working uniforms will therefore cost around 150 million Kenya shillings, with ceremonial attire adding to another 180 million Kenya shillings, for a total of 330 million Kenya shillings, taxpayers' money. Right? That's on page 4 of the Standard newspaper this morning. Now, President William Ruto says Kenyans need to relook at the 2010 Constitution. Now, the head of state, President William Ruto, said that a number of areas in the 2010 Constitution needs to be relooked at 16 years after the promulgation. Now, while he was of the opinion that the judiciary had done well, the new constitutional dispensation, Dr. Ruto said frequent injunctions were also frustrating government programs. He said the judiciary may want to think about balancing the rights of every citizen to challenge whatever is being done against the rights of others who believe that that right should be achieved. Ruto insisted that it was a conversation for Kenyans to have, even as he clarified that he did not think it would amount to changing the constitution. Right now, the head of state is actually at it again just the other day, having conversations about the Vision 2060. Now it's a conversation that he says that we should really think about it and we should have a conversation about it, about changing the constitution. That's on page 10. On page 2 of the daily, the Standard newspaper, I beg your pardon. And one then asks then a question, the very same questions we asked, when the 2060 conversation is actually a quite good, conversation that we should have as a country, even as we chart the way forward for future generations. But one asks then, okay, it's okay we're having the Vision 2060 conversation, but where are we at as far as the Vision 2030 is actually concerned? President William Ruto says that we should have a conversation revolving around changing the 2010 constitution, but yet again, where are we at as far as the 2010 constitution is concerned? What are some of the key issues addressed in the 2010 constitution, and is that actually being implemented? And if at all we're going to change the constitution 2010, what are we changing about the constitution 2010? Some of these questions that we have to ask ourselves. Okay, we are changing. Where are we at as far as the previous one is concerned? That's on page 2 of the Standard newspaper this particular morning. The head of state was actually speaking during the Katiba at 16 yesterday. Right. Still on page 2, activists vote out leaders undermining country's top laws, and human rights defenders have challenged Kenyans to use the 2027 general election to elect leaders committed to implementing the 2010 constitution, accusing the current political leadership of undermining the very document whose 16th anniversary the country marked on Thursday 27th, which was yesterday. Speaking at Jivanji Gardens in Nairobi CBD, where they gathered to reflect on these hits and misses of the constitution on Katiba Day, activists and civil society actors say the country could not claim to have fully benefited from the transformative document while constitutional rights continue to be violated. That's according to the activists and civil societies yesterday at Jivanji. They actually had their Katiba at 16 forum yesterday, and they actually deliberated on where are we at as far as the Katiba is actually concerned. That's on page 2 as well. Still on page 2, Kenyans challenged the move from blame to active participation. Now, 16 years after Kenya promulgated the 2010 constitution, lawyers, faith leaders, and professionals have challenged Kenyans to move beyond celebrating the country's supreme law to take an active role in protecting, implementing, and holding institutions accountable to it. Now, the call was made yesterday at Ufungamano House during the Katiba Day 2026, organized by the Kenya Christian Professionals Forum and partner organizations under the theme Article 11, from blaming to active participation. Right? Of course, when you look at how active people have been, especially recently on matters of politics, is actually quite impressive to just see people actually now, starting to know their rights, and of course starting to know how the nation actually operates. All right, see, faith leaders and lawyers and professionals and the Mona Inchi actually, starting to deliberate on issues which are in the constitution, which they, they're actually their rights that they do not know about. Right? That's quite an interesting move to see, even as we get up for the elections next year. All right? Page 3 speaks about beyond music, the many lives of Dolly Parton. Now, Dolly Parton was known around the world of her big blonde hair, dazzling stage outfits, distinctive voice, and unforgettable country songs, but behind the glamorous image was a private woman, a devoted wife, shrewd businesswoman, and passionate philanthropist who spent decades using her fame and fortune to improve the lives of others. Born into poverty in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, in a family of 12 children, Patton began performing on radio and TV while still young. Her professional breakthrough came in 1967 at her age of 21 when she launched her career that would even eventually make her world-class entertainers. Patton died on August 25th, aged 80, after a brief battle with cancer. Her death has turned attention to the less visible parts of her life. She kept away from the limelight, right? And of course, may her soul rest in peace. She was actually, a legendary in this, music and entertainment industry. All right, may she rest with the angels. That's on page 3 of the Standard newspaper. Page 4 had questions as billions to be spent on the new police uniforms. We had taken a look at that particular story, which the head of state will actually, be attending during the Password Parade today at Kiganjo. Shall be keeping tabs with that. We tell you tell you and give you the how the uniforms actually looks like. IG Kanja says that gave us an inspo or what to expect in the new police regalia. All right, page 8 speaks about Mukuru dwellers up in arms over quote-unquote sold out affordable housing. That's on page 8. Traders protest KRA's new cargo import duty hike. That's as well on page 8. IBC is back at Gachagua over political interference and graft claims. That's on page 8 as well of the Standard newspaper this particular morning. It is exactly 8 minutes past 8. All right, thank you so much for keeping me company until this particular minute. You've been watching The Drift. My name is Macharia. Of course, we shall be keeping tabs with these developing stories. And of course, we shall be bringing you in our subsequent bulletins later on in the day. All right, to have yourself a blessed and productive day ahead. God bless. And as always, let's do this again when God says we do.